Hello folks, let's start this video with a quick question. Have you seen the movie Gadar? Well, if you haven't, then pay close attention to the clip I'm going to play.
कहो पाकिस्तान जिंदाबाद
पाकिस्तान जिंदाबाद।
अब बोलो हिंदुस्तान मुर्दाबाद अशरफ अली अशरफ अली अशरफ अली
हमारा हिंदुस्तान जिंदाबाद था, जिंदाबाद है और जिंदाबाद रहेगा।
Pretty intense, yeah. But let me tell you that if Sunny Deol would have said Pakistan Zindabad today, he would have been charged under sedition. You don't believe me? Well, let me show you an evidence. Well, this has actually happened in India. This is the girl who was charged under sedition for saying Pakistan Zindabad. Her name is Amulya Leona and she raised the slogan of Pakistan Zindabad thrice during an anti-CAA rally. Let me throw another situation at you. Let's say that you are performing in a play which is critical of CAA with the Citizenship Amendment Bill in your school. What if I tell you that for performing in a play in a school which is critical of a government law, you can be charged under sedition? Would you believe me again? Well, the obvious answer would be no, but then let me again tell you that this has actually happened in India. In Karnataka, a headmistress and a teacher of a school were charged under sedition for organizing a play, a drama which was critical of the Citizenship Amendment Bill, and because that drama showed Narendra Modi in a bad light. Even the children were questioned. My question for this video is, does saying Pakistan Zindabad amount to sedition? Or does saying Bharat Murdabad amount to sedition? Or do any of these constitute sedition? Will anything or any action made by you against the government in criticism of the government may land you behind the bars in jail due to sedition? Well, that's my sole question for this video. Let's take a look at section 124A of the Indian Penal Code, or as we know it, the Sedition Law of India. My name is Ishan Fauzdar and you are watching The Upfront. First things first, what is this law which is putting people under bars for saying Pakistan Zindabad and for performing in plays? Well, this is the law of sedition, which in Hindi translates to Rajdroh. Now, Rajdroh, this word breaks down into two further words, which is Raj and Droh. Raj means a country or a nation, and Droh means an offense or a crime. So this word translates to crime against the country or the nation. Now, this definition of sedition which I just told you is a feudal definition of sedition, is a kingly definition of sedition, which is no longer in use today. I'll tell you the more proper and legal definition of sedition as we go ahead in the video. But as you might have already guessed, this feudal definition, which is still used by some political parties, is a very broad definition of sedition. Crime against the country is very broad, is very vague, and hence there was a need to put limits to the law, make the law more definitive. This was done by the Supreme Court of India in 1962 in the Kedar Nath Singh case, which is the most important case when we talk about sedition, and I'll talk about it in a minute. Well, India got its sedition law from the British, from Britain, and ironically, Britain does not have a sedition law anymore. It repealed its sedition law in 2009. If I quickly summarize the history of sedition in India, sedition, or section 124A of the Indian Penal Code, was not originally present in the first IPC of Macaulay, which was brought in 1860. 124 was added in the IPC in 1870 in response to the Wahhabi movement and in reaction to the first revolt of 1857. So this law was specifically brought in to suppress the freedom movement, to oppress the freedom fighters, and guess who all were charged under sedition? Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Mohandas Karamchandra Gandhi, Abdul Kalam Azad, Jawaharlal Nehru, all of them were charged under sedition and all of them fought against it. I can go on and on about how brilliantly Tilak was defended by Muhammad Ali Jinnah in his third sedition trial, and about how the famously ferocious defense of Abdul Kalam Azad against sedition went on to become a book called The Call-e-Fazl. But as H.W. Longfellow has said, let the dead past bury its dead. I'll leave that history for another video and shift on to a different history, the judicial history of sedition, the legal history of sedition. Now, a question might have popped up in your head that if sedition was such an imperial law, such a colonial law, which was brought in specifically to suppress the freedom movement, to oppress our freedom fighters, why did we retain such a law? Why did we retain such a colonial law? Well, in fact, we didn't. We did not retain sedition, we deleted sedition. Let me give you the evidence. On 10th December 1948, K.M. Munshi passed an amendment in the Constituent Assembly of India, which said, whose first line said, and I quote, "Sir, the importance of this amendment is that it seeks to delete the word sedition. It seeks to delete the word sedition, which with a much better phraseology which undermines the security of or tends to overthrow the state." This amendment by K.M. Munshi was unanimously adopted by the Constituent Assembly, and the word sedition was functionally deleted from our constitution. And guess what happens when a law is deleted from the constitution? It gets deleted from everywhere else, because anything which does not follow the constitution does not have a place in Indian legal system. This is not, however, an automatic process. This has to be carried on by the Supreme Court of India as per Article 13 of the Constitution. Now, Article 13 states that any law which was in force before the Constitution came to power and which becomes inconsistent with the fundamental rights of our Constitution shall be declared null and void to the extent to which they are inconsistent. So, if a law is inconsistent to some extent, only that extent of the law which will be declared null and void by the Supreme Court. This is called the severability principle. Now, using the same, using Article 13, in the case of sedition, understand it this way. Sedition was deleted from Article 19(2) of our Constitution by K.M. Munshi. So, the government could no longer use sedition as a restriction to the freedom of speech and expression of any citizen of India. But sedition was still a part of Article 124A in the Indian Penal Code, so it had to be declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. Also understand that sedition, the word is very wide, as I already told you. Even cheering for your favorite Pakistani fast bowler can amount to sedition if a political party wants. And guess what? This has also happened in India. Damn. However, coming back to our topic and using the same logic as I explained to you using Article 13, in Tara Singh case of 1950 and in Ram Nandan case of 1959, Section 124 of the Indian Penal Code was declared unconstitutional and in violation to Article 19(1)(a) by the respective high courts. So the process was complete. Section 124A of the Indian Penal Code, the infamous sedition law of India, was deleted, was held unconstitutional by our high courts. But here comes the twist. In 1962, the Supreme Court of our country, in the Kedar Nath Singh case, reinstated sedition. Now, Kedar Nath is a double-edged sword type of case. It reinstalled sedition into the IPC and said that sedition was a reasonable ground for restricting our freedom of speech and expression. However, at the same time, Kedar Nath Singh case, in the Kedar Nath Singh case, the Supreme Court also put some restrictions and defined the limits of sedition law of the country. The sedition law was no more vague. And this is where we look at the sedition law of the country in detail. Well, I am very sorry for the history lesson I just gave you, but I abide by George Santayana when he said that those who do not remember their past are condemned to repeat it. A quick look at section 124A of the IPC reveals the definition of sedition in India. In very simple terms, sedition is defined as any act which causes or intends to cause disaffection, hatred or contempt towards the government of India. The punishment of sedition can range from anywhere between an year to 3 years or to a lifetime of imprisonment with or without fine. Also, it is important to note that sedition is a non-bailable and cognizable offence. Now, in this video, in the UAPA video, I explained what a cognizable offence is. A non-bailable offence is a crime in which the accused does not have the right to appeal for bail. The magistrate or the judge can give him bail if he or she wants, but the accused does not have the right to ask for it. A small acute law, yeah? If this is what you think, you would make a great politician, because politicians think in the same way. They see a small section, not even a one-page section in the Indian Penal Code, and start charging people under it without realizing that the law has a galaxy of interpretations behind it, which have also become an intrinsic part of the law. If it got very complicated, let me give you an example and illustrate what I just said. So you have the right to privacy under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, yes, but you would not find a word about privacy in the entire Constitution. How then do you have the right to privacy? Well, the right to privacy is a result of interpretation of Article 21 by the Supreme Court, which happened in 2017. The Supreme Court recognized and said that right to privacy was an intrinsic part of Article 21, and hence, although it is not written in the Constitution, right to privacy became an intrinsic part of Article 21 of the law. The Supreme Court case became a precedent or a landmark in simple terms, and any other case in the future which deals with Article 21 will have to take into account this landmark judgment. In the same way as Article 21, sedition law has also been interpreted by the Supreme Court many times in the past, and the most important interpretation comes in the Kedarnath case of 1962. As I said, the Kedarnath case put limits on the sedition law, and there were two broad guidelines, I would say, of what can constitute sedition and what cannot. An act can constitute sedition only if A, it intends to overthrow or destabilize the government of India using the means of violence, and number two, if it intends to cause disharmony or disturbance in the public which may lead to violence. The Supreme Court also made it clear that strong comments in the criticism of the government do not amount to sedition, no matter how strongly they are worded. This is a Supreme Court verdict, I am not saying it. The key terms, the key phrases to underline here are two. The first phrase is destabilization of the government, the second phrase is violence. Using this case as the precedent, in the Balwant Singh case, the president came to work, and let's see how. So, after the assassination of Indira Gandhi, some Sikhs on the streets raised the slogan of Raj Karega Khalsa and Khalistan Zindabad. Now, a sedition case was filed against them, but the Supreme Court observed that the slogan was raised a couple of times and not with the intent of inciting people. The slogan also did not result in any violence, was not intended to cause violence, and hence it did not amount sedition. Khalistan Zindabad did not amount to sedition. And if at this juncture you suddenly got remembered about the Pakistan Zindabad case of the Amulya Leona case, well, you are on the right track. I'll come to that case in just a moment, but you might already have your answer though. So in this way, I only named two cases, but in many cases the Supreme Court has interpreted sedition in many ways. But almost in all the cases, the Honorable Court has read down the sedition law. Reading down a law means limiting the scope of the law and putting bars on the law. And it is very true that sedition has been under severe judicial fences. But then why is sedition used so often, so frequently, or is it even used so frequently? If we listen to our BJP government, the number of sedition cases has been very low, quoting the NCRB data. But then let's go and check the NCRB data for ourselves. We are Atmanirbhar citizens, responsible citizens, right? So we should do that. But so when I saw the NCRB data, I found that there has been a 165% increase in the sedition cases between 2016 and 2019. From 35 cases in 2016 to 93 cases in 2019. Do your calculation, it's 165% increase. A 28% annual rise in sedition cases has been seen from 2014 to 2020. Every year there has been a 28% rise approximately. After 2010, 96% of all sedition cases which were filed for criticism of politicians and governments were filed after Modi ji came to power, and as a matter of fact 149 cases were registered specially for remarks made against Narendra Damodar Das Modi. So if we look at the facts, if we look at the government NCRB data, the sedition numbers have not been so low, and this is not me speaking, these are the facts who are speaking. At this juncture, I should also tell you that the conviction rate of sedition is absurdly low, around 3%. This means that out of the 100 cases which are filed under sedition, only 3 cases are found to be guilty in the court of law. The 97 cases are acquitted, are found innocent. Also a fun fact, between 2015 to 2019, in these 4 years, only 4 cases of sedition were proved to be guilty in the court of law. 4 years, 4 cases. That's how ridiculously low this is. And at the same time, the pendency rate of sedition is very high, around 85 to 90%, which means that the cases which sedition cases which reach the court, out 85 to 90% of those cases are left pending in that very year. So they are not completed. And if you have seen my UAPA video, you will understand that when a law has a very low conviction rate and a very high pendency rate, then it clearly means that the law has become a tool of oppression and suppression of freedom of speech and expression, a tool which is used by the government to suppress dissent, and that's all there is to that law. It is no more effective. And finally, the big question: does saying Pakistan Zindabad amount to sedition? Well, in normal circumstances, no, it does not. And in the case of Amulya, absolutely not. When we look at the intention with which Amulya said Pakistan Zindabad, and we look at the Facebook post, we understand that the intention which Amulya had in her mind was of creating harmony between different countries, breaking national borders, national barriers, and abolishing the hate which different countries have about each other. It was a message of peace. There was nothing violent about it. It did not meant to destabilize or overthrow the government of India. So Amulya's statement by no means, by no stretch of imagination, was a seditious statement. Does saying Bharat Murdabad then constitute sedition? Well, if we look at the Balwant Singh case, then Bharat Murdabad does not amount to sedition if someone who says it for himself or herself, and he or she does not incite people, does not incite violence, and there is no violence created with it. Then, taking the precedence of the Balwant Singh case, Bharat Murdabad also does not amount to sedition. In the same footing, organizing or participating in a play which criticizes the Citizenship Amendment Act also does not amount to sedition, because there is nothing violent about it, and it did not meant to overthrow the government of India. There was nothing revolutionary about it. We also need to understand that the criticism of the government is not seditious, as said by the Kedarnath Singh case, and also the criticism of the government, as K.M. Munshi said, is an essence of democracy. So if most of the sedition cases end up in acquittals and not many people are found guilty of it, and if the pendency rate is so high, then why is such an ineffective law being used so frequently by the government of India, by the BJP government? Well, there are two reasons. First of all, and this is general to all political parties, politicians don't read law. The politicians don't realize that behind this small section of IPC there is a whole ocean of interpretations, and without realizing it, they start charging people under it, thinking that they would be jailed. The second reason is special to BJP, and this is to declare a person as anti-national. Accusing a person or charging a person under sedition gives the party and its ministers free pass to call that person anti-national, Deshdrohi, etc., etc., and this has a sociologically chilling effect. By sociologically chilling effect, I mean that when a person is declared as anti-national, the person has to live with the tag that he is against his country, he has gone against his nation, he has gone against his society. This has very detrimental sociological as well as psychological effects on the person. However, here is a small tip. Sedition is a crime against the government and not the country or the nation. And as I said earlier, the definition of sedition being Deshdroh or Rajdroh is feudal, is no longer in use. Today, sedition is defined as any act which goes against the government and not against the country or the nation. The government is not the nation. The nation is made by its people. A country is made by its people, who then choose their government, and then it becomes a state. So even if you are charged under sedition, you are anti-government and not anti-nation. If you like the video, if you like the work that we are doing, please do like this video, please do like our other videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel, share this video with your friends and family, and also press the bell icon. See you in the next video. Thank you so much.